Two men accustomed to competition, performing under pressure, and going for the win will face a new challenge, the Twisted Tea Tailgate Showdown. Let's meet our contestants.
Hey, my name's Brendan Gillanders. I've been playing football for 20 years and I've been cooking professionally for about 2 hours. And I came to win.
My name's Mateas, center for the Ottawa Redblacks. I have been playing football for 13 years and I have been cooking for a lot longer than that. And that is why I'm going to beat Brendan Gillanders.
Let's hear a little more about what Brendan is going to be making from executive chef Joshua Moore.
We are cooking a Texas-style chili, great for tailgating, and it's sort of a combination between a Texas-style chili, which is braised beef with lots of spices and some onion and garlic, and then the Canadian component, which most of you have probably had a Canadian chili, is ground beef and beans. So we've added beans to add a little bit more substance to it and give it a little bit more Canadian content.
Who will be crowned the winner? The cuisine supreme, the lord of the locker room. Find out tonight on the Twisted Tea Tailgate Showdown. Will speed and agility top power and strength? Let's meet Brendan Gillanders.
I'm a little nervous about the competition, just because Alex eats a lot. I've seen him eat, so I assume that when he's not eating out, he's cooking for himself. So he probably has a little bit more experience than myself, but I still think I'm gonna do well.
All right, so today we're making a tailgate favorite, chili. So it's a combination of a Texas-style chili, which is stewed beef, tomato paste, lots of spices, and then a Canadian style, or if you want to call it a Canadian style, which has the beans and all that. So we're gonna incorporate some beans into our chili, but it's gonna be made with beef chuck. So off the shoulder of the beef, super tough cut of meat, needs a little bit of a good long cook for it to become tender. So that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start by turning on our burner to a medium-high heat. Okay.
Yep.
And we're gonna get it hot. Okay. Once we get it hot, we're gonna add a little bit of canola oil. All right. And we're gonna sear this off in batches. Now, super important that we don't overload the pan, because what we're trying to do is we're gonna try and create some browning on the meat.
Yep.
There's a scientific term, it's called a Maynard process, but it creates flavor, right?
Yeah.
If we put too much beef in there, what's gonna do is just gonna boil, right?
Yeah.
And you're not gonna get that color that you want. So we're gonna do it in 2 batches. Once it's browned off on all sides, we're gonna take our time on that. We're gonna remove it to the pan. Same pan, we're gonna cook everything in. Then we're gonna start going with the onions and all that.
Perfect.
Okay, so as soon as this gets up to temperature, we're gonna add about 50 mils of canola oil. And we have some reserve because we're gonna do this in batches. We're also gonna do the onions in there and everything else, right?
Yep.
So, biggest thing with just cooking in general is building flavor, right? So every chance we get to build flavor, we do. So we're gonna season a little bit of salt on the beef.
Yep.
So this is just a kosher salt. You can get it in any grocery store. Ground black pepper.
Pepper, yeah.
Okay. Now the one thing you gotta remember with something where we're gonna build levels of flavor is you gotta watch how much salt you do use, right? Because we're gonna add beef stock to this that has salt in it.
Yep.
And some other seasonings. And then we can always adjust at the end. You can never take it away, right?
Yeah.
So if we add too much salt now, it's gonna be too salty in the end, right? And as it cooks down, it's gonna reduce, it's gonna intensify the flavor, and you're gonna end up with a really salty end product, right? So the biggest thing we're looking for, and you can test this as you go, to see if it's hot, is you wanna use your ears, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
You're starting to hear that sizzle,
Yep.
right? So there you go. So I would go and do like half of this spread out in that pan.
Perfect.
You can use your hands too. We can change gloves.
Wow, look at that technique from Brendan. A friendly reminder to viewers at home, both of these recipes are available online.
So if you're not on even service, you can just move it around, move the oil around.
Yeah, make sure the oil's there, yeah.
Right? So now we're just gonna let it rest, give it some time.
Perfect.
Now that we have the time, we're gonna cut an onion. So we need to cut an onion for 2 different reasons. One, we're gonna use it as a base for our chili.
Yep.
And 2, we're gonna use it as garnish. So there's all kinds of different things you can add to this afterwards just to amplify the flavor. So I'm gonna do the garnish, you're gonna do it for that. So, you're gonna grab your knife. You can use any knife you want. Every kitchen should have a good chef's knife. should be pretty well balanced, feel comfortable in your hand, right?
Yeah.
And we want to always protect our fingers, right? So we're going to top and tail this onion, right? So we're just going to take off the top, spin it around. So you want to bend your fingers in, right? And then all it does is acts as a guard for your knife.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah, right on the tips. Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. And then down halfway. Perfect. Now just peel your onion. You don't have to be pretty with it. Just get the outer skin off, pretty much. You want sort of a medium dice for this. It's going to cook for a long time. If you cut them too thin, they're almost going to like melt away.
Yep.
And you still want that texture, right? Because realistically, all you got is the beans and the meat that is going to have any texture in this chili, right?
Yep.
And it's still chili. So I'm going to show you just with half of mine, right? So you just want to cut maybe 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch down this way. Turn it, more or less the same thing. So you're getting half to 3/4 of an inch sort of dice on your onions.
Okay.
Again, doesn't have to be pretty. This is a comfort dish, right?
We've seen a lot of onions chopped in our time, but that was impressive. Right down the middle. Is he going julienne? Outstanding. No tears.
Perfect. So we're gonna use 1 1/2. You're gonna do the same thing with that half. And we're gonna use the half that I cut with that as well. And we're gonna save half the onion for the garnish.
Right on.
Let's learn a little more about Executive Chef Joshua Moore.
My name is Joshua Moore. I'm the executive chef here at TD Place. I work for Levy, and I help coordinate the culinary operations throughout the stadium, the arena, for everything that we do here.
Let's head back to the kitchen and hear what's going on.
So you want to go ahead and check those. Give them all a turn. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So you start to see some of that nice color around there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That like crust on the outside.
The browning on that meat is perfect. Gillanders is running away with it at this point.
So another minute or so, that's gonna all come out, and then you're just gonna add the rest of the beef, do the same thing. And then we're gonna start building the flavor.
Excellent.
Here was the Twisted Tea turning point.
So maybe now's a good time to take a sip of Twisted Tea. Cheers.
How good does that Twisted Tea look right now?
This is good to go?
Yeah, just pull it all out. And then, not to worry, like all these little bits and pieces at the bottom of the pan, that's not burnt food, that's all flavor.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So as we add the next ingredient, the ingredient after that, the natural moisture in the onions is gonna deglaze the bottom of that pan, pick it all up, and it's just gonna add more and more flavor to it.
Right on. Okay. So the question that everybody at home wants to know, including myself, is there a trick to cleaning these pans?
Honestly, if you do this right, there's not going to be anything stuck to the bottom of this.
Okay.
So like I'm saying, when you add the onions to it, the moisture that's going to come out is going to come off the bottom. The biggest thing is like anything that takes a long time to cook is you still have to give it love and attention, right?
Yeah.
So stirring it occasionally so it doesn't scorch the bottom. If you do, soaking it's the only thing that works for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like you just got to soak it. And it happens. It happens to the best of us. Trust me, it's happened to me numerous times.
Yep.
They're pretty much all good to come out. And we can start making chili.
Perfect.
So we still have a little bit of oil in there. We're gonna add just a touch more, right? And then now we're gonna add all the onions.
Run all the onions
into the pan. And all we're gonna do is, again, we're gonna give it a little bit of love and attention. We're gonna stir it. We're gonna soften those onions a little bit, right? Try and get some of those dark, gnarly bits off the bottom. So what we're gonna do, just to coax out a little bit of that moisture out of the onions, is we're gonna season it just a little bit with salt. It's gonna pull out a little bit of that moisture, and it's gonna help sort of deglaze the bottom of that pan. So if you just wanna give it a good little seasoning. A little bit more. Okay, let it sit for a second. And like I said, the salt's just gonna pull out that moisture, and then we're gonna get to some of the other stuff. So the next ingredient that's gonna go in after that is gonna be the garlic. So this is 3 tablespoons of garlic. You can use about 3 or 4 garlic cloves, or this is just chopped garlic and oil. You can buy it in any grocery store. So all we're looking for with this, you see it's starting to get like a little bit glossy. We just want it to soften a little bit more, so you keep stirring that. So you can already see, like, all here, all that stuff is gone.
Yep.
Right? So all we did was just turn it down a little bit, because now we're gonna start adding some ingredients that can burn pretty quickly.
Yep.
So we wanna make sure we're protecting from that. So next would be garlic. Okay, so you're just gonna add all that garlic in there and give that about a minute. Stir it in. Don't be shy with the garlic. Like, it's gonna cook for a long time. It's just gonna add flavor to it. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add the tomato paste and the spice blend. Now, we're gonna add the spice blend next.
Yep.
And what we're gonna do is what's called blooming the spice. Okay, so there's natural oils in spices and ground spices.
Okay.
And it just intensifies the flavor, right? You're starting to see even more of that brown stuff come up.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. So we don't want to cook this too long, because we don't want to burn the garlic. Garlic turns bitter,
Yep.
right? So in here, we've got ground cumin, chili powder, dried oregano, chipotle powder, and paprika, okay? And more or less equal parts, and it's about 3 times as much chili powder, right? So you're gonna add that to the pan, and you're gonna stir it. This is where you wanna make sure that the temperature's a little bit lower, because this can scorch. And it's gonna seem like a lot, but again, we're adding a bunch of beef stock to it.
Afterwards,
and we want that chili flavor, right?
Absolutely.
So stir that to get it coated in the oil, coats all the onions. You're almost toasting the spices, right?
Yeah.
So now you don't want to inhale all that, because it's gonna get you. There you go. And now if it looks too dry, you can just add a little bit more oil to the pan. It's gonna help toast some of those spices. So for this recipe, it's 180 milliliters of tomato paste, which is one of the small cans that you can get in the grocery store.
Okay, yep.
I only had the big one. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add half of what's in here to this pan. So right about now, you're starting, like, when you start to smell all that, it doesn't take long.
Yeah.
You can smell the cumin and the oregano and the chili powder and all that. And then the smokiness from the chipotle powder. You're gonna smell all that now. So now is the time where you wanna add about half of that. I'd keep going. I mean, if you want, you can add all of it. If you want a lot of tomato flavor,
Yeah.
you can add all of it. What's good? It's gonna do 2 things. One, it's gonna add some richness and sweetness from the tomatoes.
We'll go with that.
But it's also gonna act, that's perfect. And it's also gonna act as a thickener over time.
Yeah.
It's gonna help thicken. So you wanna stir that so it gets toasted as well. This is one of those dishes that takes a lot of care and attention at the start. And then you get to go and have a twisted tea after this.
Yeah.
Right? Or a couple. We give that like 30 seconds, you can start smelling it, right?
Yeah,
like it smells like chili.
It smells good.
Right? So what we have back here, this is just standard beef stock. You can do it any number of ways. You can make your own beef stock if you have the time. We use like a concentrate, which you can get in the stores.
Yep.
Right, and you just mix it with water. Bring it up to heat. You don't want to add cold stock to your already hot dish, right?
Okay.
So I just brought this to a simmer. It's just chilling out. That's about 1.5 liters of beef stock. Okay. So at this point, we're gonna add the beef back in. You can add all the juices, everything else. Just dump the whole kit and caboodle in there. Perfect. Stir that up, coat it in the tomato paste.
Look at the movement on this. That's high food IQ right there.
Again, don't worry about the stuff on the bottom. This is gonna act as a
Yeah.
deglazer. It's gonna take up the rest of that stuff.
It's already coming clean too,
Exactly.
in all honesty, yeah.
So you can add the beef stock right in there. Just dump the whole thing. So that beef stock already has a lot of salt, right? Like it's got a lot of flavor to begin with. So this is why I was sort of saying we got to watch how much salt we do add to it.
Yeah.
Now, so as this goes, you're just going to give it a quick stir. So it's already come up to a boil. It looks really thin. Doesn't look anything like chili right now, right?
Exactly, yeah.
There's an amazing thing that happens over a little bit of time. It's going to thicken up. It's going to become basically like a really thick, hearty chili.
Okay.
So all we want to do is we want to bring it up to a boil. Make sure that we see it bubbling,
Yep.
right? And then we're just going to let it simmer. So now we see it boiling. We're just going to turn it down, make sure it's at a simmer. And then it's just time, right? It could be an hour, it could be 2 hours. However long it takes for that beef to get tender and that liquid to reduce into that same, the consistency of a chili, that's all we're doing. About halfway through the cooking process, we're gonna add these beans into here.
Yeah.
We're gonna stir them in and then they're gonna cook. And all these are gonna do, these don't have a whole lot of flavor unto themselves.
Yeah.
But they're gonna absorb the flavor, right?
Of course, yep.
So they're gonna add texture, they're gonna add some substance to the chili. So we're gonna wait till about halfway through and then we're gonna add those in and then we're off to the races.
Brendan seems to be doing a great job so far. Let's hear how he predicted this would play out.
I'm a little nervous about the competition, just because Alex eats a lot. I've seen him eat, so I assume that when he's not eating out, he's cooking for himself. So he probably has a little bit more experience than myself. I think it's gonna be close. I think Alex is gonna put together a good dish. I think that mine is going to taste better. I mean, we're cooking this dish for over 2 hours here. So, I mean, the flavors are gonna be off the charts. I'm looking forward to trying it.
All right, so we got the chili cooking. We're about halfway there. We've added a little bit of water back into it just to help the beef tenderize over time and get really soft and delicious. Like I was telling you, it doesn't matter how much water you add to it,
Yeah.
right? We add as much water as we need to make sure that beef is super tender. The flavor's locked in there, right? As soon as you get it reduced back down, you're gonna have that same beautiful flavor already built in. So this is the fun part. So while you're waiting for that, you have a twisted tea and you get to make a nice garnish board so people can top their chili any way they want. Now, we've chosen these ingredients. We've got lime wedges, the diced white onion that we did before, just some crushed tortilla chips, some shredded cheddar cheese, some fresh cilantro. I mean, we just try and make it look as nice as possible, right? So we'll just pile up the lemons. The biggest thing, you don't want to be super chefy about this. This is a tailgate, right?
Yeah, of course.
Maybe a little bit elevated from a tailgate, but a tailgate nonetheless. So we'll just dump a bunch of tortilla chips there, right? And then you can do some shredded cheese. Just do a pile of shredded cheese there. And it's always good to have a little bit extra, right? If you end up running out of a bunch of this stuff, you just refill it.
Look at those garnish options.
A little bit of finely diced white onions. Right? You don't want a big chunk of raw onion, but nice finely diced white onion, it'll cut through some of that richness. Now, lastly, fresh cilantro. So you just want to take just a good chunk of it, just throw it on there, right? People can tear it onto their own stuff, right? People can take little sprigs, throw it on there, however much, however little they want. But basically, right there, you got a great garnish board. Like I said, you can add whatever you want to it, whatever your flavor is. But yeah, there you go. There's a garnish board for you.
It looks good. It's practical. Everybody can pick the toppings they want.
Yeah. Just throw one of those on there.
Exactly. One on the board, one in the belly.
There you go.
We're good to go.
This was a hard-fought battle for Brendan. He overcame the onion, learning about deglazing. We only lost one chunk of beef, and he really brought it home. Brendan is gearing up to self-assess his dish. He looks happy. I think he's happy. Let's hear what he thinks.
Alex, the Twisted Tea Showdown, it's mine.
I have to admit, that does look amazing. Great work all around. Alex has his work cut out for him.
This is good. This is really good. It's something that's easy. If you want to make it at home, Saturday, Sunday, start it in the morning, let it cook for 2 or 3 hours, and you're ready for the 1 o'clock kickoffs. It's perfect.
I'm just being told that there was a confrontation of sorts in the halls of the Levy's kitchen. Let's see what our cameras caught.
Oh man, literally just finished eating a big bowl of my chili.
You're going down, bro. You're going down. Gilly, do you know what I'm making? I'm making mac and cheese with pulled pork.
We'll see, but I don't have high hopes for you. Trust me. My chili, unbelievable.
All right, well, I'm an offensive lineman cooking, so watch out.
That is true. That is true. You know food. You know food. But still, I got faith in myself. Me and my man Joshua over there killed the chili. Good luck in there, but you're gonna need it.
Appreciate that, Gilly. I'm ready to do the taste test.
Thought that was about to get ugly, but it got sort of adorable. Let's head back into the kitchen with Alex and executive chef Joshua.
So we've got comfort food classic. It's a great tailgating dish. We're doing a smoked pulled pork mac and cheese. Great way to use up pulled pork that we did on the last tailgate. We got creamy sauce, macaroni, breadcrumb topping, baked in the oven, stays hot, great on a cold day. It's a winner. All right, Alex, tailgating food, pulled pork mac and cheese, okay? Best thing about this is if you have enough time, you can make 2 meals out of it, right? So today we're gonna be using our leftover pulled pork. So we did a pulled pork for the last tailgate and we had an extra pound left over. We're gonna fold it into the mac and cheese, okay? So first thing you gotta know is you gotta know what you need to work with, right?
Okay.
So Brendan was a one-pot wonder. He did the chili. You, my friend, are using 3 pans. So you gotta make sure you have 1 pan for your sauce, your cheese sauce,
Okay.
1 pan for your topping, and back here we have 1 pan for our macaroni, for our pasta, okay? So first off, we're gonna start by cooking 2 pounds of macaroni, okay? So important to note, we just wanna season our salt, season our water, our cooking water, all right? So it's already boiling. Go ahead and add those. Okay. Give it a quick stir. Because we're only going to be baking this for about a half an hour, you don't have to undercook the pasta. Some baked pasta dishes, you would undercook the pasta a bit because it'll continue to cook. You can do it slightly, but it's mac and cheese. Like, just do whatever feels good. Okay, so now we're going to start on the cheese sauce. So we're going to go through a couple ingredients here. Take your trusty towel. All right, so we're gonna be making what's called a Bechamel sauce, which is a classic French sauce. It's just a cream sauce that we're gonna add the cheese to afterwards, okay? So we've got 150 grams of flour, all-purpose flour, 150 grams of butter, unsalted butter. All right, so we're gonna start our pan on a medium heat, all right? And we're gonna get the butter in the pan. It all goes in there. Perfect. All right, and we're just gonna get that melted. Once it starts melting, you're gonna add the flour to it. Okay, so the important thing about, this is called a roux. So this is gonna help thicken that cream, that milk, right, to make it a creamy sauce. But you gotta cook out the flour a little bit, right?
Okay.
You don't wanna have that raw flour taste. So what we're gonna do is as the butter melts, we're gonna add the flour in. We might turn up the temperature a little bit, right? But we're gonna take our time and care and we're gonna stir it so it doesn't scorch and burn. Okay. So as you can see, the butter's starting to melt a little bit. Just give it another like 15 seconds or so, then add your flour and make sure everything's incorporated. So stir it, make sure everything's incorporated. You can flatten it out and then we'll let it cook just a little bit.
Sounds good.
So as we're waiting for that, we'll just go through the other ingredients that we have here. So we've got about 750 mils of whole milk. Okay, so 3% milk. Salt and pepper for seasoning after. We've got Monterey Jack cheese that's gonna go in the cheese sauce. We've got Velveeta. We got our leftover pulled pork that we're gonna mix in before we bake it. And then we've got St. Albert cheese curds, which are local. They're gonna go right on top, just like you would have poutine. Okay, perfect. So we don't want it to boil away, but that's perfect. So add your flour. So it's 150 grams of flour. So just remember, equal parts butter, flour, by weight.
Gotcha.
Perfect, so you've made like a paste basically, right?
Yep.
Right, so now all we wanna do is just cook that for a few minutes. You're gonna see it start bubbling away there. we're just cooking that raw flour taste out of it.
Okay.
Right? But this is just gonna this is not gonna impart any flavor, right? And we wanna use this as a thickening powder, not as a flavor additive.
Okay.
Right? So we were making a white roux, where we're not adding any color to it, but we do wanna cook out that raw flour taste.
Very cool.
Right? So you just wanna make sure that it's got as much contact with the pan surface as possible. It's like you've done this before.
Not at all. I do consider myself a good cook. A lot of it is because of the barbecue that I bought. Nonetheless, I consider myself a good cook. I think I do have some good competition in Gilly, but I like my odds and my chances and my experience as well. I would say my strength over Gilly is maybe a little bit more of a connection to food. It's part of my job. I've never made a roux myself personally, but I've watched a lot of people on YouTube do it.
Yeah.
So this is perfect.
There you go.
With assistance, I appreciate that.
All right, pasta's bubbling away. So you can see right here, you can see that some of the moisture, some of the water that's in the butter is starting to evaporate out, right? It's also a good key for you to start thinking about adding the milk.
Okay.
Okay. Plus smell. You gotta. Cooking's all about using all your senses, right? So you've gotta use your smell, your sight, your taste. It's all about that. Your feel. So we're almost there. Give it another quick stir, and then we're gonna whisk in the milk. That's great. Okay, and we're almost here with the pasta. Okay, so now, you're gonna take the milk, you're gonna add it to your pan, you're gonna whisk it as you add it.
Okay.
Okay? You feel comfortable doing that, or do you want me to whisk while you add?
I think I got it, as long as this won't be moving.
No, it shouldn't.
Perfect.
Pouring and whisking seems easy on the outside, but once it comes time to hit an even flow and consistent movement, there's a lot going on.
More?
Just keep going. You're adding the whole thing.
Oh, right
Just
now, eh?
slowly. Just this way you can work out the lumps as you do it.
Gotcha.
Because you'll see it'll thicken up right away, but the more milk you add, it's gonna thin it out, and then we're gonna cook it out.
Okay.
So keep adding your milk. Keep going. Sort of like a steady stream.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah. At this point, just go ahead and dump it in there. Okay. So it might thicken up a little bit too quickly for us. So what we might do is we might add a little bit more milk.
Okay.
And just let it cook for a little bit longer. I'm actually gonna add a little bit more. Right, so the key is with a cheese sauce, like when you add the cheese, it's gonna thicken it up even more.
Okay.
So you don't wanna bring this cream sauce to the point where it's super thick, because once you add the cheese, it's gonna become like a gloopy ball,
Okay.
right?
Makes sense.
So you'll notice once it starts thickening up a bit, you'll notice the viscosity of it. It's gonna you're gonna be able to visibly see it. This is again using your other senses. As soon as you start, like right now, it still looks like milk, right?
Yep.
You're gonna see it start to thicken up. It's almost when you just get to the point where it's starting to thicken, that's where we're gonna start incorporating the cheese into it, right? And it's gonna melt the cheese, and then you're done. Like that's it. We're gonna season it with salt and pepper. Done. So the key is you gotta stir this every maybe 30 seconds.
Okay.
Because you don't want, what's gonna happen is all the flour is gonna fall to the bottom, and you can burn that. And you don't wanna do that, right? So over here, we're good with the pasta. The pasta's ready to go. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna scoop it out, drain a little bit of the water before you pour it into here.
Okay.
Now you can take this whole thing and dump it into a colander and drain it that way. It doesn't matter. This is just easier for us right here. All right, so all of that macaroni is gonna come into this pan here. That's all we got here, all right? So this can be put aside for a few seconds. If you can see in here, can you see it's already starting to thicken?
Oh yeah.
Like it's visibly starting to, so this is the perfect time where we are gonna start. We're gonna just turn the heat right off because the residual heat that's already in here is gonna melt all the cheese. Okay. So start with 200 grams of Monterey Jack cheese. So dump that in, start folding it into the sauce. All right, so you start folding that in.
I see he's using the classic figure-8 technique. Old school. Like it.
What's really gonna make it super cheesy is this,
Okay.
which again, quote unquote, is cheese, but it is the key to a creamy mac and cheese. There's a reason why they still sell this stuff.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, all right, that's good. So go ahead, this is 450 grams, so the one block of Velveeta cheese that you find in the grocery store. Go ahead and add the whole thing. All I did was just chop it up, dice it up.
Chef Moore not holding back, bringing in the orange gold Velveeta.
Okay. Now at this point, I'm gonna turn the heat back on just for a few seconds.
Look at that stirring technique. Just outstanding.
And it's gonna take a little while. So while you're doing that, I'll continue doing that. What I want you to do is take this pulled pork. Now this is, like I said, our leftover pulled pork from the last tailgate, right? So it's already got tons of flavor. It's got barbecue rub on it, it's got smoke on it, all that good stuff. So if you got really, really big pieces, maybe tear them up a bit, and we just wanna work it into here.
Okay.
Okay? So that whole thing, that's 1 pound of pulled pork, right? If it's a super big piece, just tear it up, but you want big chunks, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine, you can just mix it all in there.
Let's start like that.
Yeah, sure.
Get a better idea of this distribution of pork.
See the way he's tearing that meat? Outstanding. This guy knows how to tear meat.
I really do think this meal is going to be better than Brendan's.
Oh yeah?
No doubt at all.
Alex really not holding back how he feels.
It's okay, you don't have to say anything, that's fine. You can stay neutral, that's all right.
I have my stock answer. You gotta realize, like, especially tailgate food, like good comfort food, it doesn't have to be fancy, right? It's gotta taste good, but you just gotta do what you wanna do.
If the people eating it are happy, I think that's pretty much the main goal, eh?
That's it. I think that was my answer. So you can see we're starting to get sort of like gooey, cheesy sauce here. All right, I think we're good. You see it sort of started to change color here. It's super gooey and cheesy. All right, now it's time to mix. So we're gonna take this sauce, we're gonna dump it over this, and we're just gonna mix it together.
Perfect.
I'm gonna grab you a spoon.
I might have to take back my earlier statements. Alex is really looking to finish strong. Look at all that cheese.
Now, it's important to make sure you have enough sauce for this, right? If you don't have enough sauce, it's just gonna dry out as you cook it, because we're gonna put this whole thing in the oven. So I'm just gonna get you to mix that up.
Okay.
And then we're gonna do the topping really quick. You want it sort of like evenly coated throughout the whole dish, right?
Perfect. So I'm not trying to keep the pulled pork
No,
on top
no,
or
no, no.
anything.
Make sure it's all
Gotcha.
mixed in together.
Perfect. Yeah, that looks fantastic.
How does that look to you?
I kind of like the idea of having those little pockets there.
Yeah, right, eh? That looks awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great. So just, all you gotta do, give it a little shake, and that's the way it should be. Before it goes in the oven, it should have some movement to it. If it's not moving, then what you can do is you can just add a little bit of milk to it. It's gonna thin it out a bit. It's gonna allow the time for it to cook, and it's not gonna sort of like suck everything up, right? So you wanna have a little bit of movement here, right? We're gonna get our pan back onto like a medium-high heat. This is gonna be super quick. So 2 tablespoons of butter. Go ahead and put that in the pan. All right, we're just gonna let that melt for a second. This, just regular breadcrumbs. What this is gonna do is it's gonna create 2 things. It's gonna create a level or a layer of texture on your mac and cheese, right? And we're gonna mix it in with the cheese curds. So it's gonna be all toasty and crispy and really good. It's also gonna help keep some of that moisture in while it's baking. So we just wanna melt this butter. We wanna get it so it's just about to bubble. And then all we're gonna do is we're just gonna toast this breadcrumb in the butter.
Okay.
Okay? All right, perfect. So now's the time where we add the breadcrumbs, add them all in there. That's okay, it's okay.
Sorry about that.
Don't apologize.
Sorry to all the viewers watching.
What we're gonna do is we're just gonna take this right into the pan. Done. All right, so we wanna mix that together so the butter hits all of that breadcrumb. We're just gonna give it hardly any time at all.
Look at Alex standing in the pocket like this. Absolutely electric.
So what I'm gonna get you to do while that's going, and I'll take care of that, cheese curds, 200 grams St. Albert cheese curds. We're gonna put it over top, just like we would any poutine, right? And it's just gonna melt. So every time you scoop into it, it's gonna have that stringy cheese curd deliciousness.
Perfect.
All right?
The addition of the cheese curds and breadcrumbs. Wow, I wouldn't want to be Gillanders right now.
This cheese curd idea is genius. I did not see this on my everything I watched on YouTube.
So again, we don't want to go too far on this because it's still going back in the oven, right? So it's still going to toast in the oven. We just wanted to get it sort of started. So, should have mentioned this before. Before we started everything, we should have set our oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? And we're just gonna bake this for about 30 minutes until you start seeing it like bubbling up on the edges, a little bit of color on the top, everything's melting perfect, basically.
Beautiful.
Okay? So there, we're starting to see a little bit of color on the breadcrumbs underneath. That's all we want. Turn off the heat. All right? Now this part, there's no pretty way to do this, right? You can just take a spoon and you just want an even layer, right? So go ahead. You just want like an even layer of breadcrumbs over the whole thing. If you get a little bit too much in one area, it's not the end of the world.
I think a little more and then
Yeah, I think so too.
should be good.
Yeah. I think that's great.
Perfect. I'm happy with that.
That's it.
Actually,
so all we're gonna do, we're gonna take this over to our oven. So middle rack of the oven, 350 degrees, half an hour, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. We'll keep an eye on it, right? Again, using our senses. And when you start seeing it bubbling around the edges, it's done.
the process of cooking was definitely easier than I expected. I was a little worried about burning the flour, but luckily I have a professional right beside me, so I could relax.
Look at the cheese bubbling on that dish.
One thing I like to do, because it goes really well with that pulled pork, is a whiskey-laced barbecue sauce.
The barbecue sauce is not something I expected to see tonight, out of nowhere. I think we're all witnessing something special tonight.
You can do hot sauce, you can do whatever you want, really. That's about it. You ready to eat?
I'm ready to eat. That looks fantastic.
All right, it's Alex's turn to taste his dish. I think we're all witnessing something special tonight.
Just have to make sure I get the perfect bite. A little bit of everything in there.
He looks very, very confident.
It's over. Gilly, I'm sorry, buddy. I love you, but come on. It's delicious.
Wow, I don't know how we're going to decide this. If only we had a very special guest to judge these dishes.
Hi, I'm Major General Derek McCauley. I'm the Deputy Commander of the Canadian Army, and I'm here to taste test for the Twisted Tea Tailgate Showdown.
I can't get a read on the Major General. Not sure how he's feeling. What will come out of today's competition? Will Gilly's chili dominate Mateas' macaroni? There's only one person who can make that call. Let's hear what the Major General has to say.
It is clear, despite both being a touchdown, this macaroni and pulled pork is by far the best thing I've had to eat in the last year.
Wow, amazing! Alex takes it home! Let's get a replay on that testing. You could tell he knew pretty quick that Alex was taking this one home. Just incredible.
Being in the Canadian Army, we know that winning matters. And certainly today, Alex, that's a winning dish. We in the Canadian Armed Forces are hugely proud of our relationship with the Canadian Football League and certainly the Ottawa Redblacks. Alex, thank you for what you do. Thank you for representing your community. Thank you for supporting us. And on behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces, I'd love to present you this coin to commemorate your win. It certainly was well deserved, and I hope I can eat that when the season begins next year.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor. And on behalf of the Redblacks, I would like to present to you this customized jersey for you.
What an incredible gesture. Beautiful.
All right.
What a night. What competition. Congratulations to both Brendan Gillanders and Alex Mateas for a hard-fought battle. And special thank you to Executive Chef Joshua Moore and to all of you watching at home. I'm your host, James Duffy. Thank you for tuning in. Go Redblacks!